So I'm here today working on the restoration of these JBL 4301 speakers, and I thought it would be good to show you a little bit of the process and just document some of what's going on here. And so I kind of have my own idea of what I want these speakers to look like, which is a little different from how they originally were. Sorry, they're kind of dark and hard to see, but as you can see here, they used to have a cover over this, which would protect the speaker, and those are long gone. And so what I wanted to do was to give this a perfectly smooth black finish, and so I'm going to sand it down and recoat it. But they had these little posts that used to hold the grill cloth. There's these little pegs that go in the holes, and a couple of these have been broken off, as you can see. Let me focus it. Yeah, and so there's this little stub, and it's really hard to get at. So I'm going to drill those out with some small drill bits and see if I can get them out that way. And then I'm going to fill them up with Bondo, which is it can be used as a wood filler, but it's usually used on cars to fill in different dims like chips in cars and stuff. And so I'm gonna use that to fill in all the little holes in here, and we'll smooth over that and give it a smooth surface. And I'm kind of going for, you can see the original finish where this tweeter used to be. This is the original finish, and this is what happened to it. These speakers were really mangled over time and kicked around in storage and stuff, and so they have lots of little chips, and I'm gonna have to do some repair some damage on the corners with that Bondo. I'm gonna square them up and sand it down and repaint the area to match the stain, and then of course it'll match the front when I paint the fronts too. So after getting all those holes drilled out, I used Bondo, like all-purpose Bondo putty, which is used for auto parts and in wood. I used that to cover up all these holes, and I sanded some of them smooth. As you can see, it's actually a flat surface. I need to smooth it out a little bit more, like with a higher grit, but then it's ready to paint. And so I also, some corners that are heavily damaged, like you can see this one hasn't been done yet. It's not straight anymore, it's like bent in. This one was the worst, it was like chipped out. So I used a couple little paint sticks, sprayed it with WD-40 as a release, which is very important because Bondo sticks to everything. So I used that as a release, and you see it did a really good job. A little bit stuck. Yeah, so it made a nice looking corner, and I'll just have to sand it down a bit, file it down tomorrow, and then I'll paint it to match the stain of the walnut, and then I'll of course flatten it out, and we'll get it painted black on this side. So looks a little weird now, but it'll smooth out nicely. Once you sand this stuff, I think you can probably kind of see back here. Yeah, it's definitely a kinda. But with this stuff, it's perfectly smooth. After I sanded it down, I ended up cutting into the MDF, but this is all perfectly smooth, totally flat, ready to paint. There was originally eye bolts like in the back for mounting to the ceiling or something. I don't know. They probably mounted these to one of the rooms in the radio area. So, yep, sanded the backs completely and filled in those holes and ready to go. So this is a great time to illustrate what I've been doing. I've bondoed a lot of the corners, given them a full repair, sanded them down to the original grain. This is one of the last ones I'm working on. You can start to see the veneer appearing under the area that was flat, and then on the area that I applied it that was chunked out, you can see it's very thick. And so you can tell that means that by my sanding, I'm just above the veneer, so I'm going to stop there and lightly feather it in. Because when I brush lacquer onto this, I don't want it to be raised like a big bump or an unnatural section. Of course, I'm going to paint this all the finish of the veneer and the black if it's on the front, and so it will all match well, and hopefully, as is the plan, it will look like it was never repaired. But I think you'll probably see the spots up close, but otherwise, for all intents and purposes, it'll restore it to perfect condition. So I'm wearing a respirator, as you can see, because Bondo dust is fairly harmful to the human body. So trying to stay cancer free. It's good stuff though. Alright, now I'm preparing for sanding the fronts and the backs of the cabinets. I'm taping over the foil cowls, which is like this JBL sticker with the tweeter potentiometer right here to set the level. And what I'm doing is I'm scoring the tape with my nail because I have fingernails a little bit, and that's essentially giving me a mark from which to cut with the scissors, so then I can cut along this line and get it exactly on the edge of the foil, because I'm wanting to not get any paint on the foils, but to also not have like a big edge that rips off when I pull the tape off. I'm gonna have like this line around the foil cowl with the old tape under it, and then like the new starts like a millimeter over. It's a tricky little thing to kind of balance out, but I'm trying to get it right exactly on the line of where the foil cowl starts, so hopefully there won't be any problems later. We'll see how it goes. So I finished bondoing both of the sides of the speaker, and now I'm working on taping it up. I'm using this butcher paper that I'm cutting, and then I'm gonna give it a very sharp line around the edge, so that the surface kind of sticks out like about a millimeter, and so that gives me a little room to play with the paint. But also make sure that I don't like paint this face and like leave a gap, and then there's the veneer. I want to make sure that I'm heading right along the veneer and not painting the veneer, but not leaving a gap over here too. So something I'm working on, and we'll get painting pretty soon. I've been warming up the spray paint in some warm water, and I can already feel it starting to warm up, but it really just helps it adhere better to the surface and kind of spread out and not clump up and bubble, which is very important because I'm spraying this in like a 40-degree area because it's winter outside. So yeah, that helps a lot. So I've been spraying the backs, and I've had a little bit of trouble in here because it's been cold with the spray paint drying a little weird, and also it being absorbed unevenly by some spots on the cabinet. Overall, I can see it's giving me the exact finish I want because it's an enamel paint. It's got a nice, where's there you can see it. It's giving me a nice sheen on the back, but it's still flat. Here I just sanded some bumps that came up from painting last night. I left the garage door open, so it got really cold in here. It was like in the 30s when it was drying, and that was not good. So this time I'm gonna keep the windows open all day to try to warm it up, and spray another coat right now and let it dry. Um, so we'll see what happens, but I think it's gonna work out pretty well. I'm really liking the look. So I just finished painting the front and back of these speakers with a satin black spray paint, which is Rust-Oleum brand. And while I was at it, I also painted very lightly coated the screws for the front of the speakers so that they would match. And they were also kind of rusty too, so I cleaned them off a bit and gave them some Rust-Oleum spray paint. So that was good. But now I've been working on the wood veneer to try to restore it because it has lots of scratches on it. If you see up close on this one, I don't know if I can focus well enough, but this is a very clean side because it's the top of one of the speakers, but you can see there's all kinds of crazy scratches and stuff in there. And so I've been using a product called Restore Finish, and this is the dark walnut version. It has a little bit of a stain in it, but it usually just fills in scratches and things in wood, and so I've been using it with some very fine steel wool, which is 4/0 steel wool, or 4 zeros if you see the number. And so you can see on this speaker I already used it, and it's still drying, and you have to wipe it off. But you can see if you look really close, you can see all these crazy imperfections and scratches and stuff. But overall, it looks really good compared to this one because this one looks dry and scuffed up and stuff. And so from a distance, you can hardly see these scratches and stuff unless you really inspect closely. And so it just looks like a deep, rich walnut color. And so, yep. So I've been working on painting the Bondo on the speakers, which used to be these they're lighter colored specks now. They're shiny, but they used to be pure white with a little grayish tint. And so I just got some primary colors of paint at Walmart, acrylic paint. Got them in dabs, white, blue, yellow, and red, and then did some tests. Discovered that blue and red are very strong, and yellow is not very strong. And so I ended up slowly mixing up different shades, and I tried them on the cabinet in different spots, and you can wipe it right off when it's still wet with water, and it looks like it was never there. So I tried it a couple times, and I finally settled on this color, which you can see this is more of a desaturated walnut color. This has got some more reds in it, but when it dries, it looks very different. It looks more dark and desaturated because it soaks into the wood. So these are all sides that I just painted a second ago, so it's kind of hard to see. But the idea is that it's not perfect, but it just blends in a lot better. And so I think it's proving to be very effective at that. So we'll see. Alright, I just applied a coat of lacquer, and it's a brushing lacquer, which is this one, the Minwax clear brushing, just clear gloss. And this is like a 1-to-1 ratio with lacquer thinner because I'm trying to just seal the cabinets at first. So not a very not a very even pass and stuff, but I'm just trying to seal them in. They're already starting to look great, and this stuff's actually a little trickier to work with than I thought. So just be careful you don't splash it anywhere. I probably should have taped off these, but then I wouldn't be able to see what's happening. Like if it had seeped in, it would have started rolling down the front, and I wouldn't be able to get that off. So at least this way I can see if it starts to drip, and I can grab a rag real quick and just wipe it off on the fronts and backs. So yep. I have to wait for a while for this to dry, and then I can sand it briefly and then make another coat. Alright, so here I'm working on the crossovers, and as you can see I removed the old capacitors, which are standing upright like this. They're both paper wrapped. They both kind of fell apart when I removed them, and I did it with a heat gun to melt this glue. And so I scraped most of it off, but there's still some there. So I'm installing these Dayton capacitors just in parallel here, just to add up to the odd values that were originally in this, or custom values that were originally on this crossover, according to the schematic, which I've got over here. But I mean, of course, Zilch's build on here is just essentially where I got most of the idea from. So he talks about it a lot on there, and so I know I'm doing it right. So I ended up moving over these inductors slightly because when you melt all the glue, you can kind of slide stuff around. So I move these out of the way a bit, and I'm going to put these here, and I've got these guys, and I've got a bypassed capacitor right here, one of the nice ones. I'm going to stick him in here probably somewhere, so I'll have to get the wires dressed up, but once that's done, I'll do the other one, and we'll be cooking on the gas. So now this project has been completed, and I've been using these speakers for about a month, and they've just been performing flawlessly, and every kind of music has just been amazing. They look great too. And so you may notice if you're really looking for it, like if you use the light, you can see kind of like a raised area where the Bondo wasn't, it's not fully sanded down, it's probably like 0.5 millimeter out. And just other little minor imperfections. You can find various dents and chips and things that were originally there that I just painted over, you know. But I mean, like, if you're not looking for problems, you won't really see any. They look pretty stinking good, just with the new coat of paint and with the finish and stuff on them. And more importantly, the electronics and the speaker components themselves are flawless and working really well. Those new crossovers sound great, and I've got a variety of stuff on this playlist. I'll just play one or two things and show you the decibel rating that I'm getting just on this little super scope amp running at like half volume or less. So let me see. Let me see. This is a comfortable volume. You get 90. There we go. It's a good average. Now we're getting a lot more level. This song doesn't do it too much, but you can get pretty good, you can see the excursion pretty well in these woofers. Yeah, maybe this song would do it. Can't really see it. They're audio monitors. They're not meant to do that at all. So, yeah, I like them a lot. They've been pretty great all-around speakers for everything. So, absolutely love them. But yeah, you can also the paint didn't quite match the stain in here. You can see on the corners that I fixed. If you're looking for it, Of course, what matters more is that the corner is intact, and so it of course makes sense and looks right. And so, yeah, overall I'm pretty satisfied. They were totally trashed when I got them, and now they look fantastic for what they are. So, yep, good project.